I'm here today with Maria Ray to talk about her early years in Nipigon, especially working at the hospital. And Maria's just going to tell us a little bit about herself before she tells about the hospital.
Okay, I arrived on June the 4th, 1967. And I got off the train and I looked around and I thought, where am I? And I had been in Guelph working prior to that, and I decided I wanted to change, a small hospital. So I went, there's a magazine the nurses get and it has job listings and whatever. So I applied to several and I got accepted, so I came to Nipigon. I chose Nipigon.
When you got chosen then to come here, did they pay your way up?
No.
Oh, you had to pay your own way here too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Came by train and it, I think it was 18 hours or something.
Yeah, long time. Where did you stay then when you came here?
I stayed in the nurses' residence.
Oh, I don't even remember where that was. Where was
that?
That
was up the second floor of the old hospital.
The old hospital. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how many nurses might have stayed in there at that time, Maria?
At the time I was there was myself, one other nurse, and a member of the office staff.
Oh, so it was a small place up there.
Yeah. But as time, other staff came. At one time we had, I think we had about 6 staying up there.
Oh, okay. I was only ever up there once, and they had archive things up there. So I'd forgotten that the nurses stayed up there.
I remember we were there one time. They held a hospital assembly meeting in our Coleman's room.
Did they?
I remember that. You were there.
Oh, yeah. I guess I've forgotten that. So tell us a little bit about maybe the difference even in staffing, because in my mind I always remember Gladys Gordon was the administrator, but she was a nurse.
Yeah.
And so she really had a better feeling, and then it went business after that, eh?
Yeah, I think we lost a lot when they built that second hospital.
Right.
Because we were considered family. I mean, everybody was close.
Right.
And you could rely on one another, and you saw one another.
Right.
When they opened the other hospital, they had a different spot for shift changing, and half the time you'd be gone by the time the other shift got there, so you didn't see as much of each other.
Right, right.
You know? And so some of the companionship and some of the it was gone from it.
Right. So in that old hospital now, everything was done in hospital though, right?
Right. We didn't have, well, there's no such thing as computers or cell phones, and we didn't have a CSU. The staff did all that stuff up.
Oh, okay.
We did all the dressings and all the things that you had to autoclave them, and
right.
Where now everything's packaged and
right,
disposable.
packaged, right. Yeah. And I just remember the big laundry that there was there.
Yeah.
Then as well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you had, to me, there was a lot of different departments. When I look around the hospital now, I don't see that I would recognize the different departments there.
When you went in, as you know, when you went in the front doors to the old hospital, you go down the hall. One side was an operating room.
Right.
The other side was the delivery room.
Right.
And then just down the hall behind that was the lab, and then the X-ray.
Oh, yes.
We had the X-ray department, and that was all down the farther end.
Right.
Because the top end was all the rooms, and then there was a big sunroom, if you remember, at the one end.
Right at the end,
yeah.
right. So for people who are new to this area and see this hospital, maybe you can tell a little bit about what women would be interested in, that the babies were all born here.
We had the nursery, there was a delivery room, and then there was a nursery down beside and it used to be really interesting. That was the best part of it, to see a newborn baby, a new life coming, and
right.
It was really, you know.
I mean, all my children were born here too, and so I often think back to the fact that you were able just to go there immediately. You didn't have to think a whole day ahead and go to Thunder Bay like they do now. It was
you just went in, and we hoped you got there before
the doctor. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or the doctor got there before you.
Yeah, and I think that I kind of remember that there were some nurses who worked more in the nursery.
Yeah, we did.
Than they did in other places.
The RNAs did a lot of the nursery.
Yes, I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what other changes might you think of when you think of the early days there?
Well, there's more walking in the new hospital,
Oh, definitely.
you know, and I don't, what I liked about the old hospital, in behind, when you went in, there was a desk, there was a room, there was a kitchen, and it was like a dining room. And that's where all the staff ate together. Excuse me. And you did your paperwork there, and it was sort of homey.
Right.
Like you weren't sort of segregated or apart. You were all together, and you
Right.
could have a little social time when you were on your lunch hour.
So in those days too, was most of the staff local?
Most of it was, yeah. And if they weren't local, they lived in residence, or their husbands moved here and they had a home or
Oh,
something.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We had, I can't recall having anybody that traveled from anywhere that wasn't here.
So that's why it was more family, because everybody knew everybody in
Yeah,
those
and
days.
sometimes that's a good thing.
Sometimes it's not. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
But you would know most of the people in town, so in
Yeah,
case.
which sometimes made it hard if, you know, when you got somebody really sick, because
Right.
I know they say, oh, you're not supposed to get personally involved or emotionally involved, but it's easy to say.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah,
can't
no,
just turn it on and off.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
that's for
no.
sure. What do you think in the change in even the medicines in those days to today?
Well, I think progress is good because they're coming up with many cures and many, but I think they've lost a little bit of what we used to call plain old common sense.
Right?
You'd adapt yourself to the situation.
Right.
Where now it's go on the computer or whatever
Right,
and
right, right.
see. But I think the care is really good.
Maybe you can recall though the names of some of the doctors. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, when I came, there was Dr. Harvey, Dr. Sunley, and Dr. Sitlin. She was in Red Rock.
Oh, right, right.
And then there was Dr. Workington,
Oh, right, right.
and Dr. Abbott, Dr. Alhee,
Oh, you've got a good memory.
Dr. Bodnam.
Oh, I thought about him too.
Yeah, and then there's Dr. Reed, Dr. Jackson Hughes, Dr. Borby for Red Rock.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other one that came with them, down the camera fall.
Dr. Weeb.
Weeb, right,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
right, Dr. Weeb.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of doctors come and go, but they all lived locally.
Yes, they did.
Right,
They did,
right.
yeah.
And there was just the two then that lived in Red Rock, right? Dr. Sittlinger and Dr.
Well, Dr. Borby replaced Dr. Sitlinger.
Oh.
I think Dr.
Okay,
Alhee was
okay,
in
Alhee,
Red
okay.
Rock, and then
Right.
Dr. Borby came. They came in around 72 or
Right, something
Dr.
like that.
Jackson Hughes and Dr.
So Nipigon was pretty lucky, really, that
Yeah.
we had
We
always had
good medical.
good medical
Yeah, yeah.
staff here, and always a lot of doctors, I think.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
were
yeah.
always, you know.
And of course, my memory is the home calls. They actually came
They
to your
actually
house.
did, yes,
Yes,
they
you would
did.
remember that.
Yeah, yeah. The good old days are long gone.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But then too, people change and
Right.
population has grown.
So why do you think they decided to expand that hospital that time?
Well, I think they were taking, the areas around were growing. There were more people coming in. And I think we kind of outgrew the hospital.
That hospital.
And plus the fact with all the new things that were coming in, like Dr. Harvey was working on cardiac care and
Right.
things like that, because in that other, the second hospital, they had a cardiac care. That's where they started, and the lab and different things, they expanded and they were doing more.
Right.
So,
right.
and there just wasn't the space in.
Right.
in
I do now remember too the big dining room in that newer part was
Yeah.
quite nice in there for
Oh, yeah, it was
for
really
meetings
nice.
and for
Yeah, and for, you know, getting together, and when staff left, they'd hold teas there for them. And,
right,
you
right.
know, it was,
And there was a room, and that sunroom too was nice. I think that often patient activities or
Yeah.
people came and had parties and things like that.
in the sunroom. And,
sunroom.
yeah, and if, like, it was, the other hospital was 25 beds, well, sometimes you had more than that. You'd have beds in the sunroom.
Oh, okay.
You know, but,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it, and then when you think Nipigon covered a large area,
Yeah.
you know. So,
And I think it still does pretty large.
oh, yeah,
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 it
yeah.
does, yeah, for sure.
So,
Any other little things that stick out in your mind about activities
really.
there? Well, maybe about the gift shop, you didn't have that in the
no,
old
in the
hospital.
old hospital, excuse me, in that we had the volunteers, we had a very good hospital auxiliary, and they had a cart. And they used to come around in the afternoon, I think around 2, and in the evening around 7, with like things that patients would need, like toothpaste, toothbrushes,
Oh.
magazines, chocolate bars,
Okay.
pop, chips. And they'd go from room to room. They'd stop at the desks first because some people had restrictions on what they could eat.
Right.
And they'd get a list of who couldn't have what, so
Right.
that people weren't sneaking food they should
Right,
be.
right.
And then they would take the card around to everybody, and
So that was done by volunteers?
that was done by volunteers. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I could definitely remember there being a Christmas craft show along the halls of that hospital.
Yeah.
Along the halls
Yeah.
of the hospital
In
even.
fact, they still, well, Chris Kringle's still held up at the lobby, like I
Right.
mean, the cafeteria is where you get your tea, and the boardroom, I think, is where the penny auction's set
Right.
up, and
But in
I
those
think
days,
they
they're pretty narrow along that long hall.
oh yeah, yeah,
in
you
that
sort
hospital
of walk
there.
sideways. But
Right.
it went well, and I mean, a lot of money was raised because a lot of money was raised for that new hospital through fundraisers,
Right.
and bake sales, and
Right.
different things, that anything we could think of to make money,
Right.
it was done.
So I often think that people like Gladys would be really amazed at the new hospital.
Oh, I think so.
Because
I think she'd be unhappy with
Some of the things, you're right. You're
Yeah,
right.
because she ran a strict ship.
Yeah, she was very well liked,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Oh, yeah, and she did a lot. She also worked, because like, we did surgery back then, and she was an OR.
Oh.
She did
So who did surgery?
Dr. Harvey, Dr. Sitlinger, they used
Oh.
to do
Did they?
some surgery, yeah.
I guess I'd forgotten that even. I didn't remember that.
You know, tonsils, appendix, stuff
Oh,
like that.
tonsils, wow.
Yeah.
And now, they don't even want to take tonsils out.
No.
Oh, I
they
didn't
don't.
remember that.
Yeah, and you know, or if you had to, a leg had to be set or something, that's,
Right.
yeah, so,
Things change, as you
oh,
say,
yeah, but now, as I say, you need any equipment or anything, you just go down to CSU and it's all ready for you.
right,
You
right,
know,
right.
you know, everything is done.
Nothing much in an autoclave now, is there?
Not, I don't know what they, how they do or what they do. I mean, they would still have to do certain instruments, and I think they still have to do certain things.
Right.
But I think most stuff, as you say, comes pre-packaged, pre-done, and a lot of the things now, even some of the instruments, are disposable.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing made me think too, when you were saying about local staff, I think I kind of remember there was a lot of thin ladies because there was a lot of thin patients,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think our laundry staff, our cleaning staff, and some of our dietary staff were all thin ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember every place in town seemed to make sure they had thin people working there.
Yeah,
Because we had so much, many thin people here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I liked about the old hospital, some people thought the way it was shaped that it was a motel. Or then once we had people come and they look around, they see the nurses, this isn't a motel, is it? No. But the grounds were beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
We had we had the most beautiful flower beds, I think.
And that's why you were asking me about Mr. Schultz.
Yeah.
Because he was an amazing gardener. He
and
was.
The gardens were just
Yes,
beautiful.
yes, and he was English, and I think he brought that
With-
over here, the way he set
Yeah.
out the flowers, you're right.
Yeah.
And he did the same at the cemetery, amazing flowers,
It was
you're
just,
right. You're right.
The grounds were just so, well
Yeah.
kept, and well, everything was. There's the staff. I mean, the cleaning staff, laundry staff. You couldn't find fault with anything.
Right.
They were right there.
And and I think that the old hospital, the outside of it had a lot of character
Yeah,
with all that stonework on
Yeah,
there
it was-
compared to a newer building. It was,
Yeah.
it was a shame to see it go.
yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was really, you know.
So you were just saying you had a list there of all the people that you worked with, so that's many, many people.
Oh, yeah, I can't count, but it's amazing.
Yeah. So how many years were you there, Maria?
I started in 67, and then I went from full-time after I had my daughter, and then I worked part-time, and then I went casual. So I think in the 80s I actually tied
Oh,
it
okay.
up.
Okay, so you were there a
Right.
fair length of time, saw lots
Yeah.
of changes
Lots of changes.
and
yeah.
lots of different
Yeah.
people. Right.
But the one thing that I think is good about the hospital, and even Mrs. Gordon, you're always in service programs, so you were up to date on whatever was going on.
Right.
That
Right.
you knew what changes were and what should
Right.
be and what shouldn't be.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
You're
Enjoyed that.
Okay, thank you.